There. Hello and welcome to episode 14 of Adventures in Happiness. My name is Vanessa Kinsey. I am a business and life management coach, passionate about authenticity, simplicity, and connection. My philosophy is based on taking radical responsibility for your own happiness. And this is my show where I introduce you to people, places, and ideas to inspire you to do just that. Here with me today, I have the beautiful, undefinable Allison Crow. Welcome, Allison.
Oh, thank you for saying I'm undefinable. That gives me validation because I always have a hard time defining who I am and what I do.
Oh, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Hi, I'm Allison. I'm undefinable.
You are just so much. And a little bit of a background about how I normally prepare for my interviews is normally, well, let me start at the beginning. I am a person who operates very much from a place of inspired action and impulse. And so often I have a list of people that I want to interview, but so often something will pop up and just hit me. And it's an energetic, kind of a zing. And I don't even think about it because the old Vanessa used to try to figure everything out. And that would equal talking myself out of things. The new Vanessa just follows the impulses. Like I just jump. And so I immediately, and I'm going to put this post up in a minute that got us to this point. But what I thought we were going to talk about and what we are going to end up talking about are two entirely completely different things. And so it's really, really funny. So I kind of have to back up to a little bit to the beginning of here's the thing. Here's first of all, in my professional life, I've been a paralegal for 28 years and I am super detail oriented and I like to know how things fit together and I like to know the whole story. And I've been racking my brain about where did Allison come from? Where did she come from? How did she get in my feed?
I've been here for a long time.
I know. You've been here for a long time. But I'm like, how did she get in my feed? And I know that you've been in my feed and it was only on your business page, but I can recall in the summertime last year, there's just one post and I tried to find it and I didn't see it pop up anywhere, but it was a picture and it's always been burned in my brain. And it was a picture of you and it was summertime and you were by the pool and I think you were with your friend and it was the feeling that I got from the post basically, and it just stuck with me. But in one ear and out the other, I'm off doing my thing. At the end of 2017, I had said to myself, and it's a really long story, but at that very point, and what I usually do in December is I had kind of made the declaration. It was the first time ever that I had set the intention that I needed to find people who were doing what I'm doing, which is basically, I love doing live video. This is what I feel like I'm called to do. And I've been on that journey for most of 2017. At the end of October, I had set some really big goals for myself in October. And I came to it went from August all the way through October. And I was on this marathon basically to hit these goals. And I came to the end of October. It was October 28th. And it was a peak. It was just a peak. And I knew it was somewhere, a plateau that I needed to, where I was, I needed to kind of reassess some things, like where I'm going wasn't feeling I just needed to kind of pivot. Mm-hmm. And it really wasn't a good feeling because there were some things that had happened, just different, really weird things, me kind of assessing wow, I don't know if I'm going to want to do social media. I don't know how much I want to be out there, just all kinds of different things. And at that very same time, as I was going through this, you put up these pictures and you, first of all, you put up a post, but it was this picture of you. And then there was also this that went with it, this post that went with it. And in that post, you were talking about clearing. And do you remember this post, Allison?
Yep, I do.
And what was first of all, the photo it just, I could just feel the photo. It was a feeling, an energetic feeling that I got from that. And then what you wrote is one of the things, I can't read it on my screen, it's so tiny, but you had wrote about clearing, and that energetically it was a change of seasons for you. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly where I was. And it was exactly at that time. And it was such a weird thing. It was such a weird connection to have with someone that was going through something at that very same time. And so that's when I was like, that's the post that I asked you to be on here. And I said, oh my gosh, wow, Allison, this is crazy. We have so much in common. Now, that was November 1st that this happened. Now it's only a little bit over a month later. And let me tell you, things are very, very different for me. At that point, I was feeling very much, I was in a hallway, and I knew I needed to change some things. And I knew I was going to go through, or I thought at the time that I was going to go through a period of being alone. And I really know more than anything, now that I've been on here the last year doing this, that it is so important to me to be surrounded by people for that energy and that momentum. Mm-hmm. And so I say funny things, like we were just starting to talk about before I said, we've just got to go live, because one of the first things that I noticed about you was your hair. So you have naturally curly hair, right? I have
naturally curly hair. Kind of bent hair. I'm working on the curls.
Well, I thought you had like the best hair. And so I have seen you, like, I love this picture that you put up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So you've been dealing with your hair. And so, like, if you know, I have naturally curly hair too. And I had to cut it all off because I was so, like, taking so much of my time and energy to, like, deal with it. Uh-huh. And so I knew that you knew, like, I'm like, if anybody know, like, if you could deal with curly hair, you can deal with anything. And your hair is so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Is it thick?
It's very, 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 very thick.
That's how mine is.
Yeah. Like most stylists say, oh my gosh, you have 4 heads of hair.
That's what people say to me.
Yeah.
It's like every strand is like double the amount of strands. Mm-hmm. So here's what happened though. At that time, at the end of October, what I had said, the intention that I had set for myself at that time, not even realizing it, but the words that came to me, I need to find people who speak my language. Mm-hmm. That's what came to me. So in 2017, it was, I need to find people who do what I do. And I guess that was 2016. No, that was 2017. In 2018, just recently, the words that came to me is, I need to find people who speak my language. So because my guidance, yeah. So this is what's funny. And also, I should just say to people, thanks to Allison, I am feeling like I can come out of the closet spiritually and talk about a lot of the things that I've always wanted to talk about, a lot of the things, the principles and things that I live my life on. I just never knew how to do it. And because of her, so I'm going to talk about some things and that I normally don't talk about, because I don't feel like people normally have any clue what I'm talking about. But Allison, I think, will understand, these things. So my angels, taking the path of least resistance to get mm-hmm. you into my life. When I said speak my language, they have the funniest sense of humor.
Usually they do.
Yeah. So you spoke my language. Every time I turned around, you would say and do a post that was word for word things that I said. And it was like, it took me a little while for me to realize she's speaking my language. Like, it kept happening over and over again. And that was the first thing. But then what happened is, as I started preparing for this interview with you, and I'm so sorry this intro is taking way longer because I really want to talk about you. This is not about me.
It's all good. I love the story.
I have to tell you that then what happened is that as I started preparing for the interview, and well, not just that, like, you came into my sphere, and so you're saying these things, and I am just absolutely tripping out about it, because I am like, okay, it's funny, like word for word, many things, and it's still happening. It happened last night when I was writing out some notes from it is crazy. And so I thought, okay, that's funny. And then what I realized is that what I asked for, my guidance is so good to me, because what I asked for, I didn't even realize what I needed. And that was somebody that spoke the language that I speak with my heart and my energy. And I didn't even know it was possible. And ever since finding you, I have a sense of peace within myself that I'm, and part of it is just being, just knowing that my guidance orchestrated this whole thing. And because that I can trust that, because I am being so very well taken care of. And this is what the universe delivered to me.
Oh, well, isn't it fun though? Isn't it so fun? We were talking about this yesterday on a group call, about, when we're specifically bothered with something or overwhelmed, to kind of pull out to what are your broadest views of the universe. And my broadest views of the universe are that I get what I asked for and that everything is taken care of. And so really the only, I don't have to worry about the bigger picture, because the bigger picture is always okay. And so it's really just to hone on what I desire, right? Like I desire to hang around people who get me. I desire to have clients who zing with me and who don't mind that I ramble and talk and have a totally technical brain and a totally woo-woo brain and everything in between. And over and over and over, evidence shows that that's exactly how it works. And so I'm glad that you have these moments, right? It's like, in the more moments we have like this, the more we don't need to fret in between the moments. We just know, oh, everything's working out perfectly. And that sounds so Pollyanna, but the reality is, like, even in the difficult stuff, we can still feel the difficulties. And yet we can also know that everything really is working. The universe is for us. The universe is not out there trying to sabotage us. That's why I think the angels and guides are funny, because they're literally going like, seriously, we're here working for you, and you're just kicking your own ass. You're not, those kind of things. So, yeah.
Right. This morning I was like, oh my gosh, I know they are rejoicing. They are rolling on the floor laughing, that they're like, she got it. She got it. I've had crows sitting out on my back patio in the trees out here for weeks. And I'm like, is that why those crows have been there?
They're shapeshifter medicine. They're magic. They're magician medicine, wizard medicine. I can't talk today. Wizard medicine, shapeshifter magic.
Yeah. So when you talked about the, and what you were just saying, I think, I've lived my life like this for so very long, but this quest that I feel that I've been on, where I have this calling within myself that is very, very deep and important to me, and oftentimes how I feel is that I'm like a horse at a gate, and I'm so ready to go, and the gate won't open, and I'm trying, and I know that forcing it makes it, pushing against it's even harder. So I do go through a thing energetically where I'm trying to, okay, let go. And then I'll wake up at 3:00 in the morning with that feeling. And so this almost feels like connecting with you has been the gate of like, I'm getting there, I'm getting closer, and it's okay. I don't have to beat myself up for not being where I think that I should be, that it's all okay right where I am.
Right. And if you look right where you are, can you see how far you've come in the past 3 years, the past 5 years? I was talking with a client yesterday who went home to her home state. She lives in Colorado now, and she spent some time with her family, but she also spent some time with a handful of colleagues and friends. And one of them said, do you realize that 5 years ago, you said you were going to do this, this, and this, and you were doing none of that, and now you're doing all of it? And she was like, oh yeah, like, I think we forget, because there is no, Vanessa, there is no place to get to.
Right.
There is, and here we're all racing for this gate, and there's no gate, because as soon as we go through that gate, then our brain makes up this other, when I get X, this will happen. When I get discovered, when I make this amount of money, when I get this partner, when I do this, and there's always a next, but our brain needs that cognitive dissonance to not atrophy. And so if we just realize, it's like going to the gym, right?
Exactly.
Right? As you go to the gym and your body wants a little bit of the good kind of resistance. It wants a little bit of stress. It doesn't want too much cortisol. It doesn't want too much stress, but it wants a little bit of that stress. And so it's kind of like, that's why I use the phrase seasons, right? Like the seasons, because I do feel a little bit more organic than the calendar. On my birthday, I can celebrate things on that day, and I can celebrate things on that day, and I can celebrate at New Year's. But my New Year, like my winter, started that November 1st. And here's what's funny about that post. That post came up as a memory from the year before, and I made a few modifications in it and reshared it because it was still true. And I was like, oh, isn't that an interesting cycle?
Wow.
Right? That I generally around the beginning of November, I harvest through the summer, play through the summer, and then I allow myself the month of November. And then in December, I start picking back up and being playful. And, we'll see what January holds. But there is no target date or event anymore, because either I don't hit those target dates or events, or when I do, it's like, oh, well, now what? And so just realizing like where we are is perfect. And then keep desiring.
Yeah. And one of the things, it's funny that you say that, because one of the things that I had realized within myself is exactly what you were just saying. And I had shared within this group that I was in that I said something basically, I love doing what I'm doing right now because I get to be who I am, as opposed to this being something that I can do. And those are two very different things. And I've spent a lot of my life trying to build businesses and being in places and excelling at things because I could do those. I'm very good at being a professional organizer. I'm very good at paperwork. There's so many things I'm very good at, but this is who I am. And this is what makes me so very happy. And when I said that, I just felt like there was like a disconnect there. And that's one of the things that actually drove me to realizing that I need to find people that speak my language, because I don't know if it's where I am in, like where I live. I live in Orange County. I don't know. I don't know if it's what's I've cumulatively collected on my feeds and stuff, but I know I do divorces. I work in family law. And I do very high-end cases. I work with the wealthiest people, probably a lot of them in the world. And what I know is that you can have all of the money in the world, and if you don't have peace in your heart, none of that means nothing. And so, what I was seeing at the time that brought me to this kind of crescendo at the end of October was all of this. It reminds me of like snack wells, like in the 80s or 90s, I just see a lot of this, like, it's like snack wells. I feel like there's this frenzy, this madness of people like building courses and selling them and doing all this outside stuff, very outside stuff. And that's why it was feeling so different, because I know that I want to build something from the inside of me and who I am. And then looking at that and going, I do not want to do that, because I know where that ends.
Right.
I know where those Snackwell's cookies take you. I went down that road where I thought I could eat a box of Snackwell's cookies at one time and they weren't going to make me chubby, but that was a lie,
Right.
And so I feel like there's this, and that's where you came in. And that's what's so great about, and how much I love what you talk about, because when I see your life is I have visions in my head, and they have haunted me. There's the main one has haunted me and taunted me and made me very upset and angry. And at one point suicidal, or maybe at several points, just very frustrated with not being able to get there, or, I don't even know how to describe it. And then I see your life and the things that you talk about. the way that your life is visually is the manifestation that I can actually see of the way that I want my life. And such a lot of my life is very similar to yours, even down to the way we make our beds.
Do you have to make it every couple of days with different sheets because you have 3 dogs piled up on it?
No, I only have 2 little dogs and only one of them sleeps on the bed, but it's just like, yeah, no.
It's funny the things you notice, like when you say the way your life is, what do you see I'm curious how somebody else sees my life, because you only see what's interpreted through the internet. And so I'm curious what you see.
Well, what I see is, and actually it's the things that you talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Right off the bat, first of all, I love that you're flat out real. And that's one of the things that people say to me a lot. A lot of the comments messages that I get is like, nobody's like talks like you do, Vanessa. Nobody's like authentic. I'm just being who I am. I'm not trying to like be anything, like this isn't the persona. And so there's that part of it that I just love about you, because you're just so natural about that. But what I really appreciate about your life is the simplicity of it and the peace. Here's the thing. Here's what I came to. I want my life to be centered around my family and my dogs and my kids and my house at this, where I am here, my home base. And then I want to work out of there from there. Instead of what I always push against is my job takes so much of my energy, and it takes so much of, 150% I have to be able to show up and be there for my clients and be there for my bosses and all that sort of thing. And so when I see your life, it gave me possibility that's possible for me.
Yeah.
And because of what I mean by that is that the people that are in my sphere that have come across my radar are people that are very their desires and their goals are not coming from that place where I feel like your center is coming from. Is that a accurate description?
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I still have some pretty materialistic desires. And I 2 years ago, I was exhausted and overwhelmed and had adrenal fatigue and was feeling the burden of a really, really nice, really, really big, really, really old house and a acre of land with 3 trees that put more leaves anywhere, in a 30-year-old pool. And it was, it was enchanting, but it was really a lot. It wasn't simple. It was almost fairy tale, but it wasn't simple. And if I got sick or, we were house poor, basically. It was like, if anything, everything's fine as long as I'm healthy and still making money. But if I need to take a break, those kind of things. And so my husband and I discussed it, and we were away from our families. And so we decided to move back to the Austin area. And, we bought in the same neighborhood. So my son, who's 25, about to be 26, and his fiance just contracted on our house around the corner. So we bought in a first-time home buyer neighborhood. We love our house. The neighborhood is a little difficult for us because it's a first-time home buyer neighborhood, but the finish out and the simplicity, and we got rid of stuff. And even today before this call, I was out in my garage and I'm packing up things. I'm giving all of my art studio to my 15-year-old niece. And I've been culling even through my office just to try to, something clicked in me over the last few years that all this stuff doesn't feed my joy. It actually helped me outsource discomfort for a moment. So if I buy something, or if I have the next rush for me, it was trying to buy houses. I love buying houses. And it was like, oh, let's go contract on this house. Oh, let's, there are always these really big expenses. And we talked earlier about the cognitive dissonance. Well, I always put myself in these positions of having to hit these home runs. There was an overachieving thing that I was validating myself through. And something clicked within the last couple of years. And part of that was learning how to not outsource discomfort, learning how to feel. So I had struggled with depression and anxiety for, at 24, I was diagnosed and have been taking medicine off and on ever since. And I learned, I was depressing down all these feelings. And now I know how to feel sad. I know how to, I pay attention to my urges. I know if I want to buy something on Amazon, or if I want to drink a glass of wine and it's 2:00 in the afternoon, what's really going on? Yeah. And so I've spent the last 3 years recovering from my thyroid stuff and just slowing down and being really sensitive to allowing myself permission, right? Not to just be real, but sadness is a part of real life. Mm-hmm. Grief is a part, learning how. Nobody teaches us how to feel the difficult things. And in doing that, I didn't need all this stuff. And even in my office, I have a whole stack of, it's so fun. I wish I were better about going to the post office, because if I could have an open house and have all my clients and fans come, and y'all can come and have everything in my office except for my books. And I might even have but you can have my oracle cards, you can have most of my crystals. I'm really just paring things down to stuff I really love. And I'm noticing, so this is the other thing, have taught myself to be very aware of my nervous system. And if my nervous system is in the relaxation response, then I can be happy about anything. And so all the little bits of information, all the bits of stimulation, even sitting at my desk, you can see behind me my bookshelf, but you can't see who needs 200 markers, who needs another 20 books on this side of the desk, who needs this pile and this pile, and all this other stuff. And it's every single one of those things, plus what we're seeing on social media all day, is a stimulation on our nervous system. It's 1,000 tiny needles and pins. And those things are causing us as a human species to live at a higher stress level. So we're now bumped up our baseline of cortisol. We have beyond a healthy level. We need some, but we don't need to. Now our new norm is up here, and that's not sustainable. It's not sustainable, and it's not sustainable no matter how wonderful your life or your business is. And so, I pulled back and I decided to recreate my life. And we've lived in this house for 15, 16 months. And we moved out of 3,000 square feet into 1,600. And I've still culled. I'm still culling. And it's interesting because a lot of these things I have an emotional attachment to. And then all of a sudden I go, I'm not really, it only means something because I think it means something. And I'm trying to remember, something happened the other day. I just told my girlfriends and I was like, if I'd had an attachment to it, it would have bothered me, but it didn't bother me. And that kind of blows my mind. I've actually practiced this work of, I still want to feel desire. I want to feel all the range of my emotions, but I don't want to make up meanings that make me miserable in my brain. And the more I let my brain relax, the more my brain and my heart and my soul and my body says, just keep releasing stuff, keep releasing stuff. And the more I release stuff, I'm just laughing the other day, I'm releasing and I'm giving, and next thing I know, 4 new clients show up, and I'm not really hard pushing for them. I quietly open the side door to my program, and next thing you know, literally 4 people right in a row, bam, bam, bam. And you were one of them. And it was just it was like you said too, it's one of these things to the universe. It's universe, I can be out there and I can pay for this ad campaign and I can do all this stuff and I can try so hard. But when I just fucking breathe and listen and take little slow, juicy, delicious steps, everything works out perfectly. And it's like you said, it sounds so corny. Sometimes it comes out of my mouth, it sounds like such a goober. And I've decided it's not corny. It's actually the most sane thing in the world. The corny thing is that we have to push and strive and beat ourselves up. Now, I'm not saying we don't have to work. Yeah, I think we need to reposition. There's hard work and there's miserable work. I don't think we need to do miserable work, but I think hard work doesn't need to have such a bad rap. Diligent work for your dreams, for your, for the things that you desire, for the life that we want to cultivate. It does. If we sat around and had bonbons and had a cabana boy bring us everything we need, we would not be satisfied. So, work is that tension. That's actually really sexy. It's it's the tension of sex, right? It's the tension, it's the withholding, it's the not having it, and then the creation of it that creates this fulfillment, and then let's go again.
Yeah, that excitement and that wild ride. And that's another thing that really attracted me to you, because I am a worker. I love working. That is such an expression of my creativity. Just what I do is so much a part of me. I'm not a vacation person. I really have a hard time with vacations because I can't just, I always have to be, my mind moves very quickly and my thoughts move very quickly. And because I do act on inspired inspiration, my times for vacation don't always line up with people's Christmas holiday calendar. And that is something that I noticed about you. And that's what it was so refreshing, because I feel like all the facets of you, and I don't think anybody's life is perfect. That's one of the reasons, when I first said that I'm getting on and doing these videos, I just want to be who I am. I know there's this whole, and in fact, I had this affect me. This is one of the things that really bothered me at the end of October, of just of coming across some like real life, actual fakeness on, and being just like so taken aback by it on social media. Like, I know that this isn't, like normally what we see isn't
like the
like the whole
reel.
story.
It's the highlight reel. I always laugh because I'm like, I'm sure somebody wants to see a picture of me in my bed with my dogs again. Right. I know, but I think that's what's so funny. It's like, I have a couple of friends that are in Bali right now. And, there's another picture of me with my feet on the couch and my dogs and my husband. And we laugh because we have such an ordinary, boring life. And that we were talking about that the other day too. Like, I did all my jet setting in my 20s. This is what it was. Yeah. There's our little cookie covered neighborhood, the husband, the dogs. That one's not my dog, but isn't that cute in the pajamas?
Oh, I was dying.
Oh, I wish it was my dog.
I was like, oh my God, that is the cutest thing I have ever seen in my life. But there's your husband and your dogs. And so I love that that's such a part of your life.
Those are I have stepchildren, bonus kids, we call them. And they're my husband's children from his first marriage, and my dogs. And we are not in rescue actively right now. We do driving, but in the past, at our other house, and before we had one of the dogs we have now, we foster puppies. And we foster puppies because a lot of people don't like to foster puppies because they're really hard and exhausting.
Lots of work.
But the best part is it goes really fast. And so somebody always wants to adopt a puppy. And so we used to do all that. And all three of our dogs are rescue dogs. And Rocky was the last foster. That's the first night on our, no, that's actually my husband trying out the dog bed before we bought it for our dogs. He wanted to make sure it was comfortable.
I was like, you are my people. I am like that. You should see how my dog is situated right now, laying on this pillow. Like, my dogs, I want to make sure my dogs, like there's that saying, like, I work this hard so my dogs can have a great life. Right. That's like what I am all about, is making
people always say they want to be our dogs, and our dogs have a really good life. But that's one of the things that my husband and I have in common, and we laugh every day. And it's so, I remember asking this billionaire one time, Vanessa, I was really struggling with, I was working with a coach who really wanted me, he just kept saying, Allison, you could totally have $100,000 clients. And I've always just said, I resonate more with the girl next door, the Mary Ann's, than I do the Gingers. I don't want to say I'll never be in a tube dress, but I'm more a jeans and a white t-shirt kind of thing instead of one of those little skinny dresses. And, although I am totally jealous of the women that are able to wear them and look beautiful in them. But my personality, my archetype is just more girl next door than the superstar. And what was I going to tell you?
You may have got distracted because I started thinking about how great your biceps look.
Oh, they're getting better. I've been losing weight. But what was it? So archetype.
Well, you're never going to work with $100,000 clients.
Oh, no.
Never, but.
So, and my business was going really well. And, I remember talking with my coach, and I'm standing on the diving board of my pool and looking at my historic house that we redid. And I'm just like, but I'm just so content with what I have. And I have, I finally learned now. So that was in 2013, 2014. And I've learned, oh, I can have both. And like, just because I'm satisfied doesn't mean that wanting more is bad. And just because I want more doesn't mean that I'm not satisfied. And, I don't, maybe I'm not supposed to tell this story, but there was something about the reason, he was always pushing me. Oh, the billionaire. Sorry, this is important. So the billionaire. So I have this client that's like, oh, you need to meet this client of mine. He's a billionaire. She introduces me to him at some party. We ended up talking, I kind of kept work off the table, but then he was like, oh, so you're a coach. And I was like, he's like, how much do you charge per hour? And I said, sweetheart, I don't charge per hour. And he kind of laughed. And so we're talking, and then I asked him, I said, let me ask you something. I've heard you're a billionaire. And he goes, yep. And I said, let me ask you a question. You have a lot of success that, different industry, but you have a lot of success. And I have some certain successful monetary goals that I would like to hit. And I said, but I really struggle because I crawl in my bed at night with my husband. We're now, we bumped up to a king size bed. So we're like 900 miles apart. We usually have 3 dogs in between us and maybe our toes are touching. And we've got the TV on. So God knows there's no glorious sex going on every single night. And there is this moment that we crawl in bed and we are doing our thing that I just feel this deep contentment. And I really was trying to ask him, like, how do you ever, go between that contentment and that drive? And he stopped me and was like, I need that. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, I have everything. I don't have that. And I was like, I can help you get that. Like, I can absolutely help you get that. And, he talked about being addicted to his phone, and he talked about having, he's one of these like Richard Gere types, right? That buys companies that are falling apart and sells them and makes all this money. And, it's just kind of this nice reminder that it doesn't mean that I have to stop going after my goals, but that it's okay for my goals. In the coaching industry, I happen to have a couple friends that, had $1-2 million practices, but they were netting the same amount as me. And that doesn't make sense to me, right? Why you would run an organization unless you were so passionate. And most coaches I know are actually passionate about the coaching, not the managing people. And so why would you run an organization that has a revenue of XYZ, but there's nothing left at the end of the day, when you can have something more sustainable? And so part of that is my own insecurities with managing people, because if I weren't scared, I probably would. And yet I want to have not only a fiscal net life, I want to have a net life. I want to have an emotional profit on my P&L. I want to have a spiritual profit. I want to have a laughter profit on my P&L. And I want to, I want to have those moments at night with my husband. And there's no amount of, that's not short-lived. That you can't see because it cuts me off, but I'm pointing towards my bedroom. I'm like, that's not short-lived. And to me, any financial goal I've hit, that money comes and goes. As soon as it comes in, I find something to spend it on, right? That's what we do with money. It circulates. And this other stuff just compounds, this love and this companionship and this imperfection, it just compounds. So it's been a fascinating journey to take myself off of the striving and overachieving path and figure out what my version of soulful success is. What's my version? What do I want to achieve? And I usually ask this to my clients. It's like, what do you want to achieve what do you want to create or achieve in the next season? It might be a hard goal, but it might be, I just want to feel joy. I just want to laugh every day. Or it might be, I want to get out of debt and I want to make a bunch of money and I want to get laid 3 times a week, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But really tapping into those desires instead of what we're told should be our desires. And I'm so thankful for those coaches. And I know that's not all the coaches. They are not fake by any means. They were just on this path, running and gunning. And then they look up and go, this isn't sustainable. Right. So, they may as well be in corporate where at least they can go home at night and not feel responsible. Because when you're doing this work, It never stops. And I'm not talking about the client connection. I'm just talking, when I had a job before, and yes, sometimes I would come home and worry about it, but at the end of the day, I could leave that job. I can't leave my life. So, yeah.
Right. Well, that's what I like so much about it, is that this is like your whole, it's everything is just such an extension of you. And because that's something that I'm looking to, it's becoming clearer, the kind of things, the way that, as I've been on this journey, I've actually been on this journey. I started my first business when I was 27, 30, in the year 2000 or 1999. I was 29. Anyway, I've always been on this path of wanting to be, wanting to have the freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started my first business, I mean, nobody else was self-employed. So that was a very,
right.
But the bottom line is I'm not really that different. What I realized is I'm not really that different from where I was way back then to now, except for the amazing amount of experience that I've gotten. I mean, it's just incredible experience. I was not ready to be where I am now. Like now I feel like, okay, I am ready. That's where you come in, because I realized that actually what happened is I found some notes in my office here. I write a lot. I take a lot of notes, and I came across some notes from I think it was about 2012, when I was in this small coaching group. I would never say, now that I know, kind of, I've gotten to see what you do within your coaching, I'm going to call you my very first coach. I mean, truly, because I've never had
I recently wrote a post on Instagram, like a whole series, because it drives me nuts. There's so many people out there calling themselves coaches, and they're training, or they're course writers, and they're an important part of the process, but coaching is really different. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, no, because I'm glad you said that.
I get fierce about that. Yeah, I get protected.
You should. And one of the things, listen, I started, what I do in my life, this is kind of totally, this is something I was going to bring up, but since we're here, I've just been taking clarity. I've been taking action to gain clarity about what I want to do. And a lot of it is knowing what I don't want to do. And I go this way and I go, no, I don't really want to do that. I know I could go be a professional organizer and make a ridiculous amount of money. I don't want to do that. I am at the very, very tippy top of my profession. There is no higher that I can go. I work for the best firm. I work for the best clients. Right. I have everything, like, and as where I am right now, I am so grateful for the experience that I have gotten and where I am. But I finally made the decision. And when I started doing this, I would call myself a business and life management coach, because I felt like people needed to know, like, what are you even doing here, Vanessa? And then I stopped, because I was like, I don't know. Do I even really want to do that? Like, is that really what? And I'd have people contacting me and like, can you help me? And I'd just be like, no, like, no, like I was just getting used to calling myself that. Like, I don't really want to bring that on. And so then last week, which is kind of funny, again, how this all lines up with you,
right?
Is I was like, okay, here's the thing. I have people like sending me messages and they're like, Vanessa, what are you doing? Like, I love what you're about, but what are you doing? And I go, you know what? I have no idea, but I'll let you know when I know. Like, I'll give you a ringy dingy and fill you in when I do, because I just didn't want to commit to something. And actually, I think was really, truly, now that I think about it, I think it was inspired by something that I saw, a video that I saw you on with this. Gosh, I've watched so much about you in the last couple weeks. But it was this lady, it was like a coaching thing. And this lady was like a director, and she went to become a coach, and she switched professions basically. And she said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give myself a year, or whatever it was. She said she had given herself some sort of time frame. And if this doesn't work out, then I'm just going to, I'm not going to do this. And I realized right when she said that, I said, that is the missing link in my whole giddy up, is that I am not just deciding. I am not just deciding what I'm going to do. And so I was like all excited that I was like, okay, listen, I came to this resolution within myself. And so I have very few people in my life that I really rely on their guidance and things like that. And I call one of my friends and I say to her, listen, it was on my way to work in the morning. It was really early. And I go, listen, here's what I'm going to do. And she's like, okay, yeah, I said, I'm going to be a coach. And she's like, well, yeah, duh. That's exactly what you like. Hello, that's what you do. Like, it was like this revelation. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I know that's what I do. And then, I mean, that's the way it feels like what I
Yeah.
do, but I felt very like not right saying that because of the reasons like what you were just saying. So
Well, I
anyway,
think also there's so much confusion in the market. I love the internet. The internet has given us so much possibility, so much, when my mom was this age, she didn't have the kind of opportunity to work from home doing this. She didn't, even when I first left, I was coaching for a real estate company as an independent contractor. And when I left there and told my husband I was going to start my own company, now don't hold this against him, but he's like, that is a pipe dream. Like that didn't occur to him. And even the other night on the way to get a chocolate sundae, he was like, I don't know how you do it, woman. Right. But he comes from this like job world. He comes from military and teachers. And, I came from self-employed. I don't want to call it entrepreneur because nobody was going to buy our companies, but I came from self-employed. And so, and then I do say that a lot of the things that I've learned that have made me successful in coaching, I learned in the real estate world. And that may be a book if I get off my ass and work, might be something I write someday. So real estate sales gave me the sales skills needed for coaching. And that's also where I started really getting into personal development because the company I was with was really into it. And when I left, I was in a very local world here in Austin, and I was with the largest real estate company in the world whose home base is Austin. And so at the time when I left, it was a big shocking deal. And I socially just went to the internet. And so it has all these amazing things, but then just like anything else, like fire, I tell my clients, like the internet is like fire. It can warm you and it can cook food and it can generate heat in your home, but it can also burn you. And so and this is the other thing. I remind people all the time, any industry, right? You're in law. There are awesome lawyers. There are righteous, kind, loving, just people. And then there is the stereotype of it. Well, guess what? The coaching industry has finally caught up. If you see, so I think this is funny. The few times I've seen a coach on TV, it's a joke. Probably in the same way we see a lawyer on TV and it's a joke, and a doctor on TV, right? Everything is this giant personification. And so we just have to remember and focus on the people out there doing good work, doing honest work. I don't need to concern myself with those people who are being fraudulent or saying they're a coach and not really a coach. I need to focus on loving my people because those people won't last in the industry. I remember somebody a couple of years ago leaving. He's a pretty big name in the coaching world and was running this whole, there's a whole funnels, right? Your sales funnel.
Right.
He was doing online courses and making millions. And then about 2 years ago, something that had made him millions completely didn't make him millions. And there was a time around the election when things just everybody was in shock and nobody was buying anything. And the market was it wasn't down or up, but the market was frozen. There was a shock factor with the election. And I heard through the grapevine that guy left the industry. And I thought, how interesting and how clear that he was in it as a course writer and nobody wanted to buy the courses. But when you're in this industry as a coach, as somebody who is doing and helping clients do inner work to create their world around them, whether it's life or spiritual or business or anything in between. And yes, sometimes we move into consultancy, but you're in the business of human beings, which means there's always a market. And we learn this in real estate. When the real estate market crashes, you pivot. And, in 2006, we all learned how to sell foreclosures. I'm sure they did that out in California too, right? We did. And that was the thing. Half the people got out of the industry and then the other ones just figured out a different product. And so I think we're in the business of helping humans with their hearts and with their lives. That's why I was so embarrassed to call myself a life coach for so long, because I have built a business on business coaching, but I was like, but even business coaching, the life work is what makes the profitable business. Every single one of my clients can search how to XYZ. Every single one of them can find a formula that they can implement. It's the doubt, the overwhelm, the fear, the confidence, the managing it with your life. And so I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm a life coach. And you know what? I don't have any shame about working with other coaches. And you know, there's people shit shaming that too. And it's like, you know what? We have this hurting world.
Exactly.
And what if we help each other hold each other's hearts? And then yeah, the next iteration of that is perhaps an amazing business, or, you know, but for me, some of the best rewards are when a client sends a text. She hasn't worked with me for 5 years. And she said, my son had a fit this morning and I taught him something you taught me and it calmed him down. Then I'm like, I just won the world. I won the world with that comment, right? Yeah, great. You made $10,000. Wonderful. I'm so glad you bought this or did this. But the reality is when somebody says, yeah, I taught my child how, like, what do you notice in your body? What does it feel like to be sad, or those kind of things? Then, hell, of course I'm in this business. Of course I'm going to help people do that.
It's that affecting the deep change, which is so important to me, is that getting below the surface of changing people on such a deep level, because I feel like that. I feel like there's so many people that are just so lost and crying for this help. And like, if I can, like, that's what I do. Like, I am, and because of you, I am feeling like I can finally step into myself and let my light shine and say the things that I've been wanting to say, that I've been, that have been getting caught right about here. And it's all about that. When I very first started, I said, like, you know, my little intro said something like teaching people how to learn how to live from their heart.
Yeah.
And that's what's so funny, because that's exactly what you do.
It's scary to live unfiltered. It's scary to start stepping outside of cultural convention. It's not only scary from the outside in, but it is also scary to our brain, who has built synapses around the cultural conditioning. So not only may we have a family member say, you know, you really shouldn't talk about sexual innuendo and cuss online, but we also have our lizard brain going, you are going to die if you mention that you see dead people on the internet. You know, and so we have to learn how to manage our brain. We can't shut it down. We can't repress it. And we have to learn how to, you know, for me, I'm one of the biggest insecure people you will ever meet, Vanessa. And one of the reasons that I do this is because, you know, I went out there to create a way of working and leadership in the world that I didn't see among women. I had some of the most amazing women bosses who were completely and utterly horrible. They taught me some good things, but like you said, they taught me what not to do. And I was like, I don't ever want to lead like that. And I'm looking around and not seeing mentors who are the same on stage as they are off the stage, who are transparent. And it was like, oh, I could either, you know, sink my shoulders and go, well, I guess it can't be done, or go, well, somebody's got to do it. And I literally have, for 13 years, in February will be the 13th anniversary of me becoming a coach. I will keep flinging spaghetti at the wall. And then I turn around and say, who wants to come with me? I'm taking the first step, and I will teach you as I go, instead of having to be perfect. So that has definitely served me. But then the more I open my voice, and I love that you're coming to yours. I actually, one year I had like all these people saying, how did you build your business? How did you build your business through social media? And this was before there were social media coaches and stuff. And so I wrote this program called Share Your Heart, Show Your Work. Y'all get a full day workshop of that. I haven't done that class in a couple of years, but we're going to do it in January as with my clients. And the whole concept was, you be who you are, you share your heart, you use your voice, and then you show your work. But you don't have to be separate. You don't have to do this thing where professional and business are different. And so it's funny to me, because now all the influencers are about that, right? It's not just show your work. It's like, show them your pajamas and what your house looks like in the side and all this other stuff. But it's share your heart and show your work. And then all of a sudden you become the vehicle for the service to your client. Your client is the hero, but I get to be the guide that guides my clients to being their full self and gives them permission to do the same. And that ends up magnetizing. Yeah, it might turn some people off, but it completely, it's like you, like I get a little nervous. I love the attention, but I get a little, not in a bad way, but it's like, oh, wow, I've really impacted somebody. And you know more of the story than I do. But here's what's amazing. When you use your authentic voice, people ping really intensely. And other people, I'm sure, are like, who the fuck is that lady? She annoys me. She's not clear, whatever. But this is what's perfect. I can't work with everybody. I'm not meant to. I'm only meant. When I left my company, they were like, why would you leave 105,000 agents? And I was like, dude, I need 7 clients. I don't want 107,000 people working with me, right? Like, yeah, I am in abundance. Scarcity says, why would I leave that? And abundance says, I only need 7 people to fit my bills. I can find 7 clients.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's what I love. I love seeing y'all come into your unfiltered expression. And I have found that for all of us, it takes layers because we do have so much conditioning. We have, I've made myself, I jokingly I say I'm hireable, but I'm not employable because I have too many foul languages. There's a video out there of me taking off all my clothes on stage.
I saw
that. and so it's like, yeah, I keep thinking about taking my LinkedIn profile down because really, is some corporation going to headhunt me and offer me some incredible job that, and then they're going to find out I say fuck online every other day. And they're going to go, sorry, Allison, I didn't get hired. So, well, somebody wanted me to come and speak once. It was right after that video you saw where I took off my clothes. And I got down to my underwear bra, so no muff showing. But I sent it to him and I said, well, I want you to see what I'm like speaking. We had met in person. And he was like, yeah, I'd love for you to come. You can say anything you want, but we have kids in the room under 12. And so no cuss words. And I said, you know what? I'm not your gal. And he was like, you mean you wouldn't take this gig because you can't cuss? And I said, no, it's not because I can't cuss. It's because you're filtering me. And I refuse to be unfiltered. And by the way, it's not a paid gig. You're not paying me. You just wanted me to come and volunteer for your fun $25, in the room people, which might be, my people tend to go to conferences and they pay thousands of dollars. And so it's, and we had this, not a fight, but it was kind of like, he just thought I was crazy for denying this opportunity for exposure. And I was like, exposing myself with a filter on, that is you clipping my wings, is not valuable to me. And so thank you for the opportunity. And I choose to live and move in places where I have permission. I don't want to disrespect. You have the right. They have the right to not want to have somebody cuss on their stage. And I'm sure I could do a talk without cussing, but I don't want to have that thought. I don't want to have that wariness in the back of my mind. I want my full, free spirit to be out there and received. And frankly, I trust 12-year-olds to know what to do with my fucks. It's not like they've never heard it. So it's exciting for me to see that, that is waking something up, giving something up and permission. It's encouraging you. It's moving your flow faster. That by me being me, I encourage you and give you even more permission to keep being you. And then, yes, ultimately, we can create, coaching practices out of this, and we can change lives, and we can earn income, and we can meet and be with like-minded people all over the globe. Best job ever.
Yeah, so I was like, yeah, hello, like, yeah, this makes such perfect sense. And funny side note, it's too bad this guy didn't pay attention to you, because what I just learned recently, I have 2 boys. My son Curran will be 12 next month, and my other son Griffin is 13. And they have their headphones on a lot, and they play their video games and stuff. And so most of the time, if you try to say something to them, they don't hear you. I don't know if they really don't hear you, but they're not interested in like what you have to say, basically. The other day, last weekend, I just was walking around. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. My milkshake is better than yours. And Curran's like, he's listening from the other room, and he's like, Mama,
They hear what they want to hear.
It's like, hey, that's like, you could have really gotten those 12-year-olds to listen, that would have been very
My daughter is in
impactful.
the other room, and she's 22 years old. And there was a time in fifth grade when um, we had a condo in Austin. We had our house in the suburbs, and we had a condo in Austin, and we would drive down there. And she came with us one time. We had two cars down there, and I think she saw the word cunnilingus on a Cosmopolitan magazine in our condo, and she asked me what it meant in front of her dad, and I told her kind of in a clinical way what it meant, and her dad kind of was mortified. And that day she rode home from the city back out to the suburbs with me. And I said, "Why did you ride with me? You always ride with dad." She said, "You always tell me the truth, Allison. You always tell me the truth." And then fast forward, so she graduated from college in May, and the day of her graduation, she was very overwhelmed and anxious. And there's, divorced families and family and grandma and stuff. And we're in a restaurant. She goes to the restroom and she's standing in line, and I can see her across the room standing in line. And she just texts me a message, "Will you help me with my anxiety?" And I was like, "Yes, I will." And, we joke in my family that I'm the bottom of the totem pole because I'm stepmom. And, her stepdad has been around with her mom for a long time, and she and her mother are close and would never try to take that relationship. But every once in a while, both my bonus daughter and my bonus son reach out to me for things that come from the coachy world, not that we activate all the time in the coachy world. And that's the highest honor. I'd rather be asked to help her with her anxiety than go shopping any day. And it's really amazing to be able to make an impact that way. And so if I have to turn somebody off, or they're not into me being me, there's somebody better for their stage. That's the other thing. It gives an opportunity to somebody else who is probably right aligned with their audience and their world. And if their audience is going to be offended, then they're not my audience. Right. Somebody said, I put something up the other day and it had a glaring typo in it. And one of my smart ass friends was like, "I know you, Allison. I know how smart you are. And there's a glaring typo." And I was like, "That's to fucking weed out assholes." And it really was a glaring typo, but I have, I don't check my texting as often as I should have. I don't edit. I go back later and see I misspelled something or typed it wrong because I have these glorious nails with my phone. And it's never stopped my clients from saying, "You're my gal." So
yeah, I love that even more about you. I do. It's because I don't, one of the things that I had to decide when I started doing this, my biggest thing is letting go of the perfection. And, I work in a job that perfection is required. And I have to live my life at such a point of being so dialed in. And there is no, and I'm talking no, margin for error in what I do. And believe me, if I make one typo on exhibit 201, that is going to be the document that they pull up in court. I tell you, it happens time and time again. And so when I get to the end of that road about, where I am in my career and in my life, of really saying, the bottom line is I have given my all, 150%. And sometimes it hasn't been good enough, and it's very exhausting, and I'm really tired of trying to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And guess what I'm going to do? I am going to go perfect, totally along with my personality. I can't just kind of switch. I swing the pendulum all the way to the other side, and I'm like, balls to the wall. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Out of the gate, this is what you get. I started doing videos. They're terrible. In fact, I showed Brendan a video this morning, the one that I did before I got on here, because it was about his nightmare thing. And he's not so hot, he's not, let's not talk about all these things. But, and he's like, "Wow, you have come a long way in what you're doing." And I said, here's the thing, when I started out, that was from the get-go. Because when I'm online and I'm doing these videos, I feel more connected and more in line with my source than I ever have, ever. You understand that?
Yep. Of course I do.
I know. Of course you do. Oh, we've got somebody here with us. Amy Hoffman says, "I love this conversation so much. Thank you, ladies." They
You're
changed the
welcome.
thing. I wanted to add that to the screen, but I'm afraid to hit that button. Anyways, from the very first time I started doing these videos, and I knew, like, okay, I can do this. This is what I can do this. I knew that it was going to be very important for me to come from that very pure place, just like what you're talking about when going on stage and everything. I can't have that pull of there being a filter by what I talk about, trying to make it fit what I think people want.
Right.
And I did get some negative comments. And you know what? One of the things that I love about you, and I love the way, this is the cool thing. The way that you do your videos and the way that you talk, we are so much alike. And like this morning when I was telling my husband, when he watched that video, he was like, you never finished your sentence. And I'm like, Brandon, do you know what my brain is like looking like right now? Like,
it's my brain too.
I have got so many, my brain is like the 405 at rush hour when it's raining. It is a total logjam because there's so many things I want to talk about, and it's not perfection. And that's how you are. So that side of it, and which is what helps me, Allison, that really helps me, because for me to come out and do what I want to do and be who I want to be is because of you doing that exact same thing. That just,
if you and I were sitting in a coffee shop and having this conversation, if I were sitting in if I were doing a live workshop for 25 people at Dell or at Shell Oil or some of these other places that I facilitated things, I might not finish a sentence. I might chase a bunny. And it was funny. I talk in, I always say, I talk in circles, and I feel like I should have 3 points, and I'm working on my clarity. And one of my clients, she's so cute. She says, I saw you and I ran up your little funnel. And she did everything I ever taught, including 2 of my high-end circles. And Rebecca was so cute. She goes, I love that you talk in circles. I read you in circles. And it was like, it was just another validation. It's like, and I always say, I have a real close sister friend named Varian, and Varian is one of my besties and has been for a long time. And, so like the language, it's like, well, if you want a coach that doesn't have language and is extremely concise and clear, go work with Varian. And what's funny is half my clients work with Varian and with me, but right. Like, if Varian's not offended by my language, she doesn't use it. But it reminds us, like, we really can be us. There are 7 billion people in the world. I don't even know if that stat is true. I'm just making that up. But there are billions of people in the world. And how many do we all need? That's the whole point. Like, I always tell my clients, quit trying to go get millions of clients. How many do you need at $1,000 a month to pay your bills? Right? Like, most of us can get by on $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month. Some of us can get by on even cheaper than that if we move to first-time home buyer neighborhoods.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know. When you came across dropped into my life, however it happened, I had no idea that I needed you. And I had put up a post in our group. You had asked Friday, what was it? Something, how did you put it? What is that you call that? Like
Friday celebrations?
Friday celebrations.
Yeah, I do Friday celebrations. I want my clients to, that's part of the community, right? Is like, if we were working in an office, if we were going in an office and you got something done. And so let's say in the paralegal world, you did something for your client or for your lawyer, and your lawyer won the case, y'all would be celebrating and talking about it. Like, we did a really good job and they ruled in our favor or whatever, high fives, we got paid. Or like, that all feels good. And so I'm trying to teach my clients, especially the women, our men, we have a few men and they're amazing, but like, it's okay to celebrate. It's okay to brag. It's okay to acknowledge yourself in front of other people for what you've created and what you've done. Inner work, outer work, achievement, thought, not working, whatever it is. So yeah, Friday celebrations.
Yeah.
And you posted, I hired a coach.
I posted that. I was like, because this was such a big thing for me. And the thing that I get these phrases that come into, God, there's so many of them. There's things I could start telling you now that just so line up with words that you like use. I was told that I was a facilitator. I was, from a spiritual perspective, that I was a facilitator. And so, and this was a couple of years ago. I'm not going to get into the whole story about it, but I was like, well, what in the world? I knew what it meant in the way that she told me because of my abilities that I do. And it has to do with people when they cross over to the other side. But I was like, well, okay, all right, great. but what do people even like? What is like? I can't just be like, hey, what do you do, Vanessa? I'm a facilitator, like. But then I see your post, and you're like, coaching is a facilitation process, and I'm just like, oh my god, another, another lineup on the thing. But how I felt this week, what's come to me, and it's come to me for a couple of different reasons. But the visual that I get, what I saw for myself, is that I had one foot on the brake and I have one foot on the gas. And all that's getting me is like spinning around in a circle.
Yeah.
And I needed to make a decision. And one of the things that I realized when I had I called it molting, because I had asked you in October 1st if I could interview you, immediately said yes. And then I went into this weird hibernation period and just kind of dropped off. I don't even know. I was molting. That's what it felt like. I was shedding the skin. And, it's like, now I lost my train of thought because I have so many thoughts going on. But I go, listen, I know where I am. I am not going to be able to go it's one of the phrases that you use. In fact, you say deep inner work. And I know for myself, there are some phrases that go, that play over and over in my head. And it's one really main one in particular that I think is just hanging me up. And as much personal development I have done my entire life, I read my first personal development book when I was 8 years old. This has always been a quest. I've always been a quest to be a better person. No matter how much I work on myself, I cannot get past this thing. I need somebody to guide me through it. Here's how I think of you, Allison. I think of you as, I have all of the ingredients I was going to say make a cake, but I'm not really a cake person. So I have all of the ingredients to make like this really giant badass burrito. Except I don't know how to put it all together. And that's really where you came into my life and hit me. And so I had made the decision this week, and it was just like everything else that happens in my life from an energetic perspective, that I am so beyond grateful that I get to talk about it with someone who really understands this, that's going to help me be able to, because I feel like I can help so many people with these gifts that I have, is that I got this really strong feeling. Join her coaching. You join the coaching group, join the coaching group. Much like what happens when I feel the need or feel called to get on a video or do a video or come live, I have this little tap on my shoulder, and I'm like, it's really not a good time for me right now. I'm in the middle of something. Like, hold your horses, but it won't go away. Like there has been times when I've been at my office and I've had to leave and go to my car to get it done so I could go back to doing what I'm doing. That's what happened with your coaching. Now, even though I knew that's what I wanted to do, it was like, what are you waiting for? Get busy with it. And it was the night before that I actually joined that I had that feeling. And I was just like, I was in my bed, and so the next thing, it was the first thing on my list. So I really am so grateful, because I had no idea. Thank you to my universal intelligence that brought this full circle into my life, because I had no idea that when I asked you to do this, that I was going to be able to say, lucky me, that you are my coach. And I cannot wait to get started on this journey with you.
It's an amazing community, and I look forward to helping you. You say, it's not even the how-to, but I'll just help you see that you actually do know how to make your burrito. But sometimes we don't see. There's Michael Neal talks about like just having somebody to, if somebody stood and talked to a lamppost for an hour, it would be valuable. If all of us went and talked to the wall for an hour, it would be valuable. And sometimes when we are in these isolating worlds, and we are, that's why I moved from one-on-one coaching to doing it this group ways, because we need each other. We need to reflect back and forth. Sometimes we need to babble our way to our brilliance. And it's just like the more, you can look at those notes and they look crazy, but all of a sudden you'll see the one thing on that piece of paper that pops out. It's the same thing with our language, is we need to be able to bounce that off and share ideas. And we need people who listen differently than we listen to ourselves. So I'm excited that you're a part of the community. You're officially a soulie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Really one quick question. Actually, there's a couple of things I wanted to ask you, but one thing that I was just thinking of, because somebody said to me, and this is when I was in my phase of, anybody that knows me, like going back to my story, like I talked to my friend and I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. And then I talked to a couple other people and they're like, yeah, Vanessa, what do you mean you're going to call yourself a coach? That's what you do. Like, that's what that's hello. And then it was like I get an email from a client and the client actually says, this is the best part of my job. Let me tell you, the very best part of my job is the connection that I get to make with people when they call the office the very first time. I am the person that talks to them. And I'm very good at connecting with people like immediately. And it's the very best part of my job because I know they're coming from a place of being so heartbroken. And I just feel this energy exchange between the two of us. But I got to work. It was actually the next day. The first email that I saw is I opened it up and it said, thank you so much for coaching me on this. And no one has ever said that to me. And that's the kind of stuff like I know how I'm so hard on myself and because I am such a perfectionist and it's so important to me that I go out and do good work in the world. And I really want to be the best person that I can be for people. That I don't want to just be like this snake oil salesman and come across that I could do something that I can't do. But at the same time, I'm like, this is exactly what I do. It's like, this is what I've been doing. And I'm going back, I was telling you about these notes that I found from 2012 and this kind of like coaching thing I was in and everything I've written, it's all exactly where I am today. And that's where I was like, look, I can either wait another 6 years and be right here where I am, or I feel like I'm finally ready. One of the biggest problems, or one of the things that I think has held me back so much in my life, and I can remember somebody saying this to me when I very first started my organizing business. There wasn't very many people in Orange County doing that. I was one of the first organizers. And there was this lady that was a little bit, she was quite a bit older than me. She had much more much more experience in the business world and that sort of thing. And she said, what do you want to do? And I just said, well, I know I'm supposed to be speaking, and she's like, oh, everybody's a speaker, everybody wants to be a speaker. And she just shut me down. And I was just like, well, if everybody wants to be a speaker, like, that's not why I'm, whatever. But I realized at that point, one of the times, and I had other people tell me this, is that one of the things that has always hung me up is that I was really afraid to be seen. And I feel like I am at this point, like, that's why with connecting with you is so big for me, because I'm not holding myself back from being seen, because I know you are a seer. You can see deeper than the surface stuff.
Yeah. Well, and that visibility is one of the biggest things my clients like. The desire for visibility, but then there's subconscious stuff. There's emotional healing work that needs to be done. Sometimes there's ancestral shit from past lives. There's other little things that we get to work through on the inside. And we talk about how building a business, especially as a solopreneur, or a self-employed person, is one of the greatest vehicles for personal growth, for clearing stored stuff in our systems and our bodies, for getting not just good at business and not just good at personal development, but for getting healthy and all these other things. A lot of my clients or colleagues call themselves holistic coaches, right? Because it really is a 360-degree world. And I do think that there are many people who have a natural lean towards the essence of what coaching is. That's the other thing you don't even realize that you're going to get is, I've been doing this for a really long time, and I started out as this hardcore sales coach and go all the way to energy. So one of the benefits that, not all my clients are coaches, but the benefits that my clients don't only get to be coached, but they also get to see different modalities in action. Like, I feel like I'm Mary Poppins, and it's like, oh, if we need energetic healing, we can do that. And if we need a business plan, we can do that. And if we need a strategy, we can do that. And if we need, if we need to do a body scan and clear something out of your stomach, we can do, plus all the regular coaching stuff in between. So that's one of the best things we talk about when you are a coach. Not only people say, well, how can I pay you if you're not being coached? Well, one of the things being coached is being coached, but also being coached has helped me master my craft. you know, it's helped me learn what not to do. And I have picked up different modalities and ways of being too. So like, it's just going to explode your brain. And you will step into more, you already are stepping into that. Wait, I am a coach. That's what I've already been doing. And at 17, I had someone say, I'm going to call you Mother Teresa, because you just kind of go around and help everybody with their stuff. And I look back on that now, and that was, you know, coaching wasn't really, I mean, it was there, but it wasn't nationally known kind of thing. So I need to wrap up, because my husband and I just realized he sent me a text message, and it was like, we're going to meet a couple. He's got some writer friends, and we're all going together to meet. So, but if there's any other questions that you said you wanted to ask,
no, let's wrap it up. No, because listen, it's 1:11. I think that's a good time to
there you go.
hit the stop button. I just want to say thank you so much, Allison. I feel like I have a magic wand that I didn't know how to use, and I need somebody to help me use that, you know, be able to use it. And I just appreciate you. I have never been in this place of having the level of gratitude, of deep gratitude, and peace and happiness and joy that I have since you came into my life. And I thank you so much. Thank you for doing this with me today, taking time out of your life to do this with me.
You are so welcome.
I will see you and talk to you really soon. And thank you, everybody, for being here with us on the show today. Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye, you guys. Thank you.